Hey, this is Jake with Exterior Experience in St. Louis, Missouri. Today we're going to be building a gate right here. We're coming off the existing fence and kind of closing up the space between the garage and the fence. So what we're gonna do, the first thing is we're gonna have to put a support behind the fence to be able to hold the gate. So we're in the neighbor's yard over here, and we need to put a post right here. We do have a post right here, but we gotta be able to have the support right behind the hinges for the gate. So what we're gonna do is dig down. In Missouri, the frost line is 30 inches. So we have to dig down 30 inches, set the post in the ground, pour the concrete. So we just got some post hole diggers, old fashioned way. We're just gonna get to it. We basically just use the post hole diggers to get that far down. When we ran into rock, you just get one of these rock bars at your local Home Depot or hardware store and just break it up like that. So what we got here, we have a cedar post that we're going to put right into the ground like this to support where our gate is going to be hung. So, I built this fence a couple months ago, and usually when I set a post, I want to make sure it's plumb, but I could almost guarantee that it's plumb because when I set these posts plumb, it was flush with all the 2x4. So right now, I'm just going to make sure it's flush like that, and the board itself is a little warped, so I could kind of just eyeball it at this point. So what we're going to do is we got this reg bag of Quikrete that we're just going to open and pour right into the post. Just like this. So you probably want to do about half of the bag. Get your bucket of water, pour it in there so it kind of mixes. And get your rock bar again, kind of mix it up. So you're basically mixing up the concrete inside of the hole instead of like in a mixer or however people do it. So I think that was enough water for me. I got my powder up on top that I'm just gonna mix in. And it's fast setting, so this should harden up in about 15-20 minutes. And that's about all we need to do for that. Eyeball it right here. That looks good to me. You can see this bow right here. So even with the level, it won't be perfect. So, just pack your dirt real tight on top of all the concrete, and then you could just screw in from the other side when you hang your gate. All right, so now we're on the other side. We're gonna secure this post that we just set here. So I've got some 4-inch screws that I'm just gonna go right through the pickets, through the 2x4. And it's gonna go right into that post where we want it, keeping it nice and straight right there. When you're measuring for your gate, there's a couple things you want to keep in mind. So I'm gonna measure the entire opening right here from wall to wall. So we're looking at 32.5 inches. But we're putting a 2x4 on this wall for the gate hardware and the latch. So the 2x4 is actually 1.5 inches width. So when I look at this and I see 32.5, I got to keep in mind that my actual opening after I put the wood on the garage is actually just going to be 31. And I also want some space for the gate hardware as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off a whole other inch. So I went from my 32.5 opening to a 30 is what I'm actually going to cut the wood at. So my 2 pieces of wood, they're going to be 30 inches for my 32.5 opening. And so as far as the height goes, we're going to be screwing into the 2x4s of the frame. So I basically am going to measure the height from the top of the top 2x4 and the bottom of the bottom 2x4. we're at 63. So it's 63 inches tall for the total height of the gate. But when I cut my pieces of wood, I want to subtract 7 inches from my height 2x4s, because the way I frame it, the width 2x4s are going to be sitting on top of the height 2x4s. Does that make sense? So for 69 inches, I'm going to lose 3.5 inches here and 3.5 inches here. So I'm going to take my total height and subtract 7 to accommodate for my width 2x4s. So I'm going to show you how to cut wood real quick. Sounds self-explanatory, but there is a quick little method to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is, this is rough cut cedar. So I'm going to straighten off this edge by hanging my square right here and putting my guide of my saw flush. So that's how you could get a straight edge. So I'm going to measure from my straight edge. I'm going to wheel it out. I'm going to find my 30-inch mark. I'm going to find my 30-inch mark right here. I'm going to mark it on the top, mark it on the bottom of the measurement. Take my square, make a straight line. And I want the piece of wood that I'm cutting to fall off so it doesn't pinch my saw blade. So once again, I'm using the square to make sure my cut is nice and straight. And I'm just going to run my blade, in this case, right down the middle of the line. And I got 2 straight edges. So what I'm going to do, it might be off by 1/8 of an inch or so from my original measurement. So I'm just going to make sure these are flush, my 2 pieces. And I'm going to just make a line right here. At the very end, if I cut down the middle, it should be exact. So once again, I get my square ready for my straight edge. And I'm just going to run it down the middle here. What you should end up with are 2 pieces that are identical. So these are the width, and I need to cut 2 more pieces for the height. So my total height was 69. I'm going to subtract 7 because they're going to be in between these pieces. So I'm going to cut them at 62. Okay. So when you're building something like this, you need a T25 bit, exterior screws that are 3 inches. 3 inches is pretty much standard for framing, which is what we're doing. So we pretty much have it laid out. This is where the 7 inches come in, because here's some height that we subtracted from this. So how we attach all this is a method called toenail. So I'm just going to get this started over here, where I'm going to go straight. I'm going to go straight into this 2x4 right here. I'm going to back it up. I just did that to get my hole going. And then I'm going to angle it up so it catches this piece. Now, building on the ground is not ideal, but when you're working in somebody's backyard, it kind of happens sometimes. So once you get it all straightened up right here, just go for it. Just like that. And, you know, I'm going to use my square to make sure when I'm building this, everything is nice and square. So when I attach these, I'm going to have to pull that down just a little bit. But I'm going to do another toenail on this side over here. So this is the last step of the framing for the gate. So I'm sure there's a way to do this with math and angles and whatnot, but that's not how I do it. What I do is I literally set my gate on top of a 2x4. I put it at the actual angle that I want. So it's only on touching the top on this corner right here. It's like not in between these guys, and it's at the bottom right here. So what this does is this board will carry the weight from the hinges and distribute it across the entire gate instead of just being on that one side. So once I have it set up like this, I literally just take my, wish I had a pencil, but in this case I'll take my pen and I'll just mark it right here. So we got the gate framed out. So what you want to keep in mind is this corner piece right here that goes all the way across diagonally. The side that you put the hinges on, the bottom is where the diagonal piece is. So hinges are going on this side of the gate, so the diagonal piece is here and it goes all the way up. So we have this kind of mapped out. We're covering up the frame. For pickets going into the frame, you don't want 3 inches because they're obviously going to be too long. So use 1 5/8 screws. And you're just pretty much going to do 2. Just going through it just like that on every single one. So everybody makes mistakes, even me in tutorial videos. So what happened, I was looking to hang the gate. I got to go into the frame right here, which should add up to be the top of the frame of the gate, but it didn't. So no problem. What we had to do is just add another piece of wood on there. So I'll just tie it in with some 3-inch screws, make sure your angles, straight cuts, everything. It's still just nice and strong. So when you're hanging a gate by yourself, what I usually do is get a pencil and mark, hold the gate up, mark it where I want the gate to be, and then I get my gate hardware and just put 1 screw in on the wall. Make sure that's straight, grab another screw. And what I do, I just put the gate on my foot to get my ground clearance. And there you go, you got a functioning gate. Now all we gotta do, what we're gonna do next, put a 2x4 here, get the latch on there, and it's pretty much ready to go. Banana. So we just attached this 2x4 onto the side of the garage, and how we did that, we just used the 5-inch ledger lock screws by Fasten Master. And they're at Home Depot and Lowe's actually. So you just want something more heavy duty than just like a 3-inch framing screw right here. So all this hardware you could buy at Lowe's or Home Depot as well. Putting the latch on the garage and then the bar on the gate. So now we got that on. That's where our inch of clearance came in. So we've planned that. So what I literally do, I literally stick this in the hole where it's going. Load up my screw. That's your gate right there. Make life a little easier for the homeowner, we're going to put this handle on there. Even though we don't do it every time, this gate just happened to come with one anyway. So that's one. And there you go, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I really hope this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. My name's Jake. I'm with Exterior Experience in St. Louis, Missouri. If you're in the area and this is too big of a project, or if you're building a fence or have any other outdoor structural building needs that you need, give us a call. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video.